Hey, Kisaki. Help, come down. It's like you shares it. Come on, make us our festival. No, yes. Anyway, on behalf of my colleague at McKinsey and also on behalf of your communication team, David, Robert, and Lisa, I really want to thank you for joining me. We're supposed to be here till 6. You have my commitment. We will get out of here on time. I happen to do it well. Just to be sure that you're all in the right room, can I have a quick show of hands here? How many here, before you were reincarnated as MBA students at a Wharton school, had in fact designed, stood up in front of an audience, and delivered some form of presentation? Quick show of hands. Okay, so most of you have had that experience. That's right. How many of you would admit that standing up in front of an audience generates a sense of nervous tension, second only to have an open answer? How many are too nervous to raise your hands to me? So right away, we've learned rule number 1 about giving presentation. We get nervous. Let's be clear about that. I've been to the bathroom 3 times and had 2 cups of water. Believe me, we get nervous. So let's talk about nervousness. Firstly, I'd like us to declare that there's nothing wrong with being nervous. Can you appreciate what a nervous tension is all about? Is a sign of respect for the audience, a sign of respect for the secret, or wanting to do well? Yeah, I would be more concerned at burn because it was special care. That it'd be all right for you to be nervous. By the way, if you want to have a big joke about you being nervous, you sure? Your audience doesn't care. They don't care. So what I'm going to do today is give you a whole bunch of suggestions for how you can take that presentation and put it into the presentation, see, doing the dough, like this. My objective, of course, is going to be for you to implement every single one of my ideas. You got right reduce behind you get this unbelievable beast. You're going to do that. You're not going to do that. And I'm perfectly ready to accept what is going to happen. I promise you. And then if you got 10% of my ideas are going to say, gee, that's perfect. Thank you. Really appreciate it. And the other extreme is going to be another different day for this say, the last thing we don't know what they eat at McKinsey, which are crazy. But never, ever do that. You don't know who I am. You don't know where we are. No! It's okay with me. Don't do that 10%. And to be very honest, I'm not interested in either extreme. Those are going to be very off. I'm definitely 1% with the middle 80% of my suggestions today. And with a little bit kind, integrate both ideas are worked well. This too broad, but it doesn't work well. If you do that, I would amend my gift. If you want to take note, by all means, feel free to do so. On the other hand, Lisa was kind enough to make copy of the several handouts that would be ready for you at the end of the session. So let me describe these as they create the need to make notes. The first of these will be a one-page ball save for presentations. It is the structure and the outline for my comments today. But what I'd like it to, from your point of view, is outline of all the steps you need to go through for every presentation you design. Behind that will be something that introduces the 2 books that David would be referring to, Say to a Chart and Say for Presentation, something written about those. Because of the time constraints, I will refer to but not elaborating on a segment I call Sketching Your Story. Please make sure you read that section. How do you relate from words you're going to speak with the images you show to be sure to what drop? Yeah, out. And similarly, again, because of the blind spaces, it can also be availability of a book in the notes. I'm just going to touch upon, say, the chart. That again, you're going to get a book. Some. The bishop should be waiting for you at the end of the session. I have made a submission to finish at 6 o'clock and actually no later yet with the privilege. Please don't wait till 5:58 to ask questions. I'm very serious. Questions come up. Ask questions when they come up, not just be worried about it. I'll make sure we keep room questions. Is that fair? Okay, so with that in mind, let's address the task of putting together a presentation. And as you all know from your experience, on the surface, very simple. All you have to be concerned about is just 3 major phases. Phase number 1, you want to absolutely sure that you define the situation that's going to make this presentation you're about to give tomorrow different and unique. Let's say another presentation you did last week or one you're going to give that. The answers to these questions are the answers you need to move to phase two, which is the actual design of a presentation itself. At which does you concern how do you structure a logical, persuasive audience? What visual do you design? How to make sure it work well? Yeah. And last of all, but distinguishing the presentation from a written document are the delivery skills. How do you serve your hook? How do you handle yourself in front of a room? How do you handle interaction? How do you handle questions? So as I said, on the surface, it looked very simple. As you end up on your experience, it isn't that easy. So what I'm going to do is go one level behind each of these three phrases and elaborate in much more depth as to what the Robin is saying. Starting with defining the situation. Here, what I'm asking you to do, whether you work individually or as teams, as soon as you know you've done a presentation, treat yourself as a sick bay. Clear your deck, clear your mind, single sheet of paper, and keep everything in your power to find the answers to these 5 questions. What in the world is your objective of this presentation at hand? Whom are the people you're trying to persuade? Who's your audience? I know that there is nothing more impressive in a video's presentation to show the audience that you are in touch with the facts. And what the audience is listening for is the so what of some of these stuff. What I'm calling your message. How much time do you have? And as a result, what do you put in? What do you omit? And as Rob was speaking, make sure that you pick out the appropriate mean. Please.
Did you mention that it will not be spiked in the candle?
No. What there is, as I said, is the words are here. Further, there is much more depth on the book, but you're not getting past from my slide. Okay, with that in mind, let me go behind each of these 5, and let me start with this business of defining your objective. Here, what I'm speaking about is for you to ask yourself, why are you giving a presentation? Better yet, what do you hope to accomplish as a result of your presentation? See, right now, do me a favor. In your mind's eyes, make a list of the 5 things in descending order of importance to yourself. The 5 things you like to do most in life. Okay, we all know what number 1 is. And for many of us, 1 is also numbers 2 through 5. Go on, are we like tonight? Now, here's your question. Where does giving a presentation fit on that list? That is sure that it is not among your 5 priorities, is that right? What if it 45 big, but not the top 5? Here's the insight. As much as you don't like giving presentations, I hate, as a member of your audience, sitting through that worse than you don't like giving them the first list. I will do anything not to sit for your presentation. I will lie. I will cheat. Okay, I'll activate my pager. I'll ask my assistant to come in and disturb anything. But my point is, therefore, if you want me to sit for your presentation, you had better give me one hell of a damn good reason for me to be there. That's what I mean by your objective. Can you write out in one sentence only, what realistically you expect from me as a member of your audience? Write that out. Because get this, meeting your objective is the only measure of success you have for your presentation. See, I don't care what a great speaker you are if you don't meet your objective. I don't care how beautiful your video. You did not meet your objectives. Conversely, and currently you're meeting your objectives, don't change what you're doing. Be quick. But you won't know that if you haven't taken the time in one sentence. What realistically do I want the audience to do? And so these, I'll make sure it's actionable. That's what I mean by defining your objective. Equally important, what I'm listening to and looking for that sheet of paper in front of you is an incredible, in-depth analysis of the members of your audience. You notice I use the word analysis, not just identification. You don't need pipe. But I want to get right into it. My mentor, Ken Hainer, the gentleman I dedicated in my book to, used to say designing a presentation without an orient in mind is like writing a love letter and addressing it to whom it may be. So, where's Laia? See, you've admitted that you're nervous. I need you to stop worrying about what's happening here and stop worrying about what's happening out there. So stop making a list. You are the key decision maker. Who has the authority to say yes or no to what it is you want him to do? How interested are they in your presentation? How knowledgeable are they about what you put down? See already the clues as to what you're going to put in and what you're going to omit. Think about this one. If your ideas are so good, if your recommendations are so good, why should the audience say no? You'd like to believe that rational people will make rational decisions when presented with facts like that. That's not the way it always works. Let me give you a personal example. I want you to know that for 33 years, I smoked cigarettes. When I enlisted in the Air Force way back then, you weren't considered mad. You didn't lie, of course, have a capture and fuck them all, right? I figured I would do one other three and taught myself to smoke. And for the next 33 years, I put cigarettes in my mouth. Now, over that period of time, I was given the equivalent of more presentation to persuade you to stop smoking, always were logical, all of which made sense. Not a wake up, you stop. You take the financial presentation. You guys are wizards, okay? With your spreadsheets, you'll always 1, 2, 3 to show me the net present discounted cash flow of how much it cost me to smoke a pack of cigarettes per day. And you show me right there, look here, dummy, at the end of the year, with the money you said you could buy for yourself before just demonstrate. Make sense, right? Didn't stop me. You talk about the design of how for visuals you have admitted until you have seen the inside of your lungs animated in black and white on a 20-foot screen for pre-powerful people to see avatar is eating away at your lung tissue. Powerful, right? Didn't stop me. The punitive approach by Dr. Gene is very simple. You do what you learned out. The emotional approach by 2 daughters. Daddy, we don't want to lose. That one got me to stop for about 40 minutes. See, they took the sum of all of these presentations. At a time when I was psychologically ready to accept, and it took me 33 years. So I need you to write these things out. Where is the resistance coming from? What's their attitude going to be? You can never go enough. And you really, pick apart, analyze the in-depth, remember the goal. As we said, at the heart of all of this, of what I'm calling your method. How do you get in touch with your message? It looks like that. Let's assume your audience said, come on over, T, we're going to give you 4 hours for your present book. So automatically you design 4 hours worth of visual right? So work with transparency about that many. You walk in with 4 hours worth of transparency. I know you're going to down. You get ready to start. Chairperson looks at you and says, I'm sorry. I know I said 4 hours, but I've got this crisis tennis match with Zelazny. I can only give you 1 minute. After you curse, silently under your breath for 30 seconds, what would you then say in the remaining 30 seconds that summarizes the 4 hour verbal party cake? That your message. Make it a habit. Write that out. You'll find it invaluable to be sure if you get nothing else across the audience. Your message. In terms of the scope, just because your audience gave you 4 hours doesn't mean you have to use the full 4 hours. Let me tell you something. No audience ever complained if you finish early. On the other hand, if you don't have enough time, rethink through your message or objective to that audience that is realistic to the blanket creative job. And here, as Rob was pointing out, don't fall in love with any one piece of equipment. Analyze the pros and the cons of each piece, of equipment you're going to use. I will grant, by the way, Rob and Lisa, that many of the disadvantages of the spirit of PowerPoint, she made that very, very clear, and I acknowledge that. What I find very often at Edith McKinsey, if you get too fancy with the animations, the audience that finds a city here, I'm going to do the conference. Put this back, yep. It could attack back. And then you do all these spoil. Stop being so killing. So, leader, keep that, who can serve. Another disadvantage that we should mention to that, all of a sudden become more aware of the visual on the screen than of the speaker. In other words, it puts more focus there, and I don't want my audience to declare A. If the speaker with the presentation, though not truly A in the sense that I meant. By the way, do you notice what I've been doing with this? You notice I've been tagging on and off your projector. Why is that? You got it. Is to overcome exactly what you were speaking about. And to ensure that you're focusing on me and not on the visual. And for that, I've done it now. As you know, on your laptop, if you want to simulate that, you can press the period. It'll give you your blank tree. As a matter of fact, I got a white piece of tape there so that moving in drop and rule. Big dog, I know all that is. Okay, so learn to use that to be sure that the attention when it should be up there is back to you. Now, there is one or two awesome pathetic PowerPoint presentation.
Everybody mentions it. What it eats it up in Spanish, you download.
It is the ability it gives me to make all the thought changes to my moves. At this. See, here I am giving a presentation predicated on interest rates going up at 4%. The audience client said, yeah, but put it at 6%. Boy, I might line you up. Then find out what happened. That. You go for chalk number. That's the. That shows like the good. See, it's something I could never do as well with other resources. Also, as much as I love the overhead transparency, these are like aim the sequence. As you know, you can also change the sequence of your slide zero, right? All you need to do is enter the slide number on the unit number sign, press enter, and you'll go right to that spot. So for that reason, what I do with each usually is I give myself pages of my visual 6 up on a page. I'll make that corner number very big so that if somebody needs me, it's by 33 or 24. Yeah, I can see it. I press 24, enter, VA1. It's very bright. But what I'm asking you to do as well, be sure you think about the pros and the cons for each situation you're facing. So as I say, that's shade number one. And all nutty, is that one sheet of paper with all the nuances and the members of the team know how the situation is. By the way, I've done this in the puzzle only to suggest these things are interrelated, and I don't care about the sequence in which you find the answers. I do feel that you need all of it, because you need all of it to move to the other phase, which is the actual point designing the presentation itself. Here again, 3 major steps. Step number 1, you want to be sure that you structure your story with persuasive arguments. Once you've done that, then you want to sketch what I'm calling your story walls. And then last, you actually create your visual layers in support of the story you're telling. In terms of structuring the story, you notice, it's suggesting stuff to the body, because these will be influenced by what you put into the body of your presentation. Now comes time to structure your story. What I have experienced more often than not, their tendency is to recreate the problem-solving approach we use to find the solution. I cannot tell you a number of presentations I walk in where the speaker starts, good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. 6 months ago, you asked us to do separate stuff. Okay, let us take the first 3 hours, the chapter called Background and Introduction, to tell you all the things we had done in those 6 months. On and on and on and on. As a member of your audience, I want you to need a real shape favor, 90% of the cost. I want you to turn these things upside down. Tell me where you are, and then spend the 3 hours showing me how you got it. Let me demonstrate what I mean with a few examples. The first of these is going to demonstrate the problem-solving approach. You are now captive members of the audience, so get it better what's hand in your mind, and you try to figure out where me you do the skill. So, 6 months ago, you asked us to do a lot of work researching your organization. This is a first awesome piece of evidence we came in touch with as we looked at your organization.
Let me describe this in excruciating detail. It is a piece of metal which measures 17.5 inches thick and that two beds about an inch and a half, 3/8 of an inch in diameter, is made up out of kryptonite in Wharton. Piece of evidence with that fashion. Oh, you want more? Oh, we did a lot of work. I'm sorry. We found bolt, screws, we found a knot, and we found it. See, and I'm going to take you like that for 3 hours, and finally, in the last few minutes, I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. You're going to go, oh, whitey, excellent. Notice how infinitely more effective it would have been if I had spotted my permeation. And I said, Lady the Jonathan, my objective today to persuade you to buy this bicycle. Let me now spend the next 2 hours and 58 minutes to be long. I should see effectiveness, cost, quality, yada, and all that. Let me also, by the way, point out the kickstand. A piece of metal without which your bike falls down. And you see how now you have a context in which to hold that piece of metal rather more to make anything like that. Let me give you another example of the same trail. This is a deer showing left. So for a few seconds, you're all show. You are about to receive this letter of your all-time dearest friend. Get in touch again, what's happening in your mind, and you try to figure out what the dearest friend is going to tell. See, I can see by the way you're responding how long it's taking you to stop laughing once you get what's happened. You know, and the letters did be recreating the sea hunt of Eras and the sea points may occur. Now, notice how infinitely more effective this letter would be if it were turned upside down. It would get to the point much faster, it would be simple to tell, it would have a hell of a lot more effect. Okay, so as I said, 90% of the time I beg you turn your stories upside down. I left you a 10% market. Walk.
Well, I guess sometimes the spiritual we've done Apple credibility.
I appreciate that. So that's one of the reasons why you might choose to stay with the way you have any other reasons. Yeah.
But you may want to build up the anticipation period continuing.
Good morning, Mr. Boy. You got to ride the audio. Let's sleep with somebody else. Audio seems likely to disagree with Copy. Yeah. Bingo. If you got a hostile audience and they may disagree with what you're going to say, you're building up a hell of a lot of resistance. Now, let's say that situation. Let's assume this is a situation. Listen to what I'm about to say, and you tell me how you feel. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to make a recommendation to you today that the nose is not going to be popular. We already know. I want you to know that the members of the team have sat down and discussed and looked at all of the options. And believe us, if any doubt there was any option in Bolsheviks to you, he would not be making a vain mission. Our recommendation is that you should adapt in that fight. Let us tell you all. How are you, and you appreciate at least that was shown from getting. And he was there, you might still be receptive if I created one. But nonetheless, I still will give you a 10% landmark situation in which you do much more interpreter. Either. So you've done now with this body. Let's talk about introductions. Can I assume now that all of you have flown the nation's airlines? You've all been on planes? Is that fair? What do you do in the first few minutes of an airplane flight or a flight that doesn't reach you to say to be what conscience? You even newspaper? That's the introduction to the airplane. I know what it is Texas. And I maintain that's what happens in most of your protection. Now, what would happen if you heard the flight attendant say the following on the sound system? Ladies and gentlemen, if you look out from the right window, you will notice a fire developing in the number 4.
Do I have your attention now? Yeah, that's what after the presentation. And you're all creative people, but don't entity firm answers that correct some way to light a fire under your nose for the first few minutes. So that you get the essential of all the other three that are unnormal. Become the project. I follow what I call PIP, P-I-P approach. The first P is make it very, very clear to your audience what the heck the purpose of this presentation is all about. Why they? What's important is the R. Purpose, importance, and then the other P is for pre. Give you a bird's eye view of what you're going to do sound like together. Light preview of the three phases of the presentation. It's like a roadmap, wake to bed, way to walk, and way ahead. And then similarly in terms of your ending, be very, very careful. Make sure you repeat your recommendation, spell out the pros and the cons, and then I need two more things. Give me your action program. Okay? In other words, make me feel if you say yes to buying a bicycle, you've already anticipated what it's going to take to turn that into reality. Here are the steps. Here are the people who are responsible. Here's how much time. Here's the cost. All you have to do is say yes. We are ready to get model. The last item on the list is what I call next steps. What agreements did you make during the presentation that you didn't know what the time of before the presentation? Write these out throughout the presentation and then spell these out. Well-built relationship.
If you reiterate those words.
Yeah. Go out your recommendations one more time. Repeat the conclusions that led to those recommendations. Then I want action program. And the last thing I want are next steps. Went into a question? Right. Yan, jump into your question. You wouldn't about. Okay, so you now have a great story. Okay. From there, you're going to do the sketching your story more. And as I mentioned before, because in a content straight, I'm not going to elaborate. It will be in the handout to yet, and of course, you have to dip a book to elaborate now. Well, now let me move on to producing your charts, your graphs, and all that. David almost bet you how many years I've been with McKinsey is I've been let you in on a secret, but I promise you won't let it out of this room. Why have you promised? I can very embarrassed. The October 2nd will be exactly 40 years. Scary stuff. Another one. I mean, if there's one of my side, I do what I like and I like what they say. Not awfully tremendous. But the point is that my responsibility is not just the training, but to work with my colleagues in designing their presentation. Now, if I work with you, I will make it a point at the end of a presentation to come back to you and say, Tita, how did it go? Did you meet your objective? How did the audience respond? See, I have never learned my lesson in the 40 years because anytime I ask you, how did the presentation go? What do you want to actually say? Always great. And no matter what, great! So I kind of visualize in my mind's eyes, typical member of your audience sitting there for your presentation and it's feeling great. Right? However, what I think you're not telling me is the way the audience feels. And generally, the reason they feel that way has to do with the design of your chart you're aware. Have you seen these lately? Exhibit number 1. Yeah. It's everything you ever wanted to know, and at no time do I think and leave my hands onto the crowd. Now, I'll ask you, what are you trying to show? The obvious answer will be, well, we're only able to integrate here. So what I want to show you, we did the whole work bed up this way and that way. Now, on occasion, I'll be able to persuade if there's another way. You're a crow, you wrote the book. Anything you can do to turn this say what but limit, please do so. Only one caveat. Not omit any other day. That's when I become very resourceful and there's another chart to put forward to the point. It's a real chart. I did not pick up this chart. I hope you're laughing. I really hope you're laughing. See, the question I have here at this stage is how much time did it take by visualize people, a person, and at what cost to create this chart? And was it worth the investor, given the point? Now, if that doesn't help to confuse your audience, there's other tricks of the frame, right? You figure people don't understand your chart, work from the title chart. At least let them understand that, right? Look at this.
This.
That's a great title, productive selling time, and the percentage of total time related to travel time, leaving all the individual thought. Are there any questions? Also, in the annals and designing visuals, there's another rule. The rule states the simpler you make the chart, what happens? John. Simpler the chart, what happens? Easier to understand, right? Anything else? Focus again on the presenter. Good, thank you. That's, yes, please. Memorable. Memorable, right? Now, that's what we'd like to believe, but that's not the way we apply the rule. See, we're incredibly ingenious. But the way we do it, the simpler we make the chart, the more footnotes we put on the bottom of the chart to caveat the simplicity of the chart. Again, we wind up with things like this. They're so evil, aren't we? Right? Jeez. And then, of course, what you need in every presentation is the one chart which is commonly referred to as the "oh my god" chart. Every presentation must have one. Oh my! This is the one that summarizes the 6 months worth of efforts. It's a 3-hour presentation, 3 hours all in one chart. Ready for this one? Ready? Hold on. It is too easy to laugh at my colleagues' charts. So I want to make this again an object lesson. Let me show it to you again. As captured member of this audience, get it cut to what company in your mind as you try to understand and figure out the chart. Let this be a lesson. If this is what you're feeling right now, this is what you're going to be doing to your audience, and this is what you do. See, I wish you could see yourself on my vantage point watching the chart. There's a sea of confusion out there, and all of you are going around and oh dear. The brief and you got tired of that, and you said, "Title, help me, please." So you had the part, it was category. He said, "So much for that." Watch, you went back around. Oh yeah. So, but give yourself credit. You spotted the 4 companies mentioned in the title, right? You spotted that. Now, where are these though? Where are these? Cross category. See, that's great. You're making great progress, right? Now, I'm going to save you another 73 years, right? Because all of a sudden, your eyes are going to pick up these days. Little ray of sunshine. That's the scale. You know, the horizontal line, the most chart, very resourcefully made into concentric circle, so you can get more information on the face. Better G. So I think we now know how to read the chart, right? That's the company G, fixed manufacturing as a percent of net sale. Company G. Wait, 7.2%, right? Got that? Okay, hold on, you. Company S is 9.8%. Company F is about 7.3%. Company K is about a G. Wait. Now all you have to do is do the CD for all the other dots. And you notice nothing stands in the way of genius. Did you get this? You notice on the scale only goes up 14%? Nike. Oh, better you did a space. You got 30s and 40s, you don't mess with bulbs, you just like that take one. You down. You now know how to read the chart. So what? So what? See, the purpose is not to understand how to read the chart, so what the heck is your point? So again, I'll come back to you actually. How did the audience respond? Wrong question. Gee, the audience loves this chart.
They have dubbed this for radar chart. They have asked us for big posters they can hang in their office. And I don't doubt it because they have to use something for their kind. You're bad, you're bad. I have designed a handout that called a kidney for shame. Yeah, put all you don't do is zip it feedback. So you get that one, set it to me. At least I can add. But the interesting thing, I was trying to design the patio piece called a kidney spot me. And then we like for a bear. Anyway, so if that's not the way to do it, the question is how do you do it? And very, very quickly, one, you make sure to get the right chop on this will be in the handout again, you develop non-face phrase. Two, you write a message title, and three, you use a graphic treatment. Very, very quickly, just selecting the chart form, you will see your matrix in the handout and shows you the basic kinds of charts that explain the basic kind of comparison by helping your message, and that gives you my recommendations for which chart to show which kind of application. Step number 2, writing a message type. This is what I see at the top of most of the charts, which I would call a topical. You looking at this, tell me what obviously is the point I'm trying to make with the chart. You tell me. Yeah, take a look at this. The West accounts for almost 50% of the profit. Now, I want you to know that is a very valid observation. It's a very good conclusion. And you also appreciate it is not the point that I, as a designer of a presenter, want you to focus on. This communication. See, I have infinitely more interest to pay attention to the North, or we got less than a 10% share. So most of you are thinking West. I think you could think North. I got this communication. How do I overcome that? I take responsibility for my message, and I let the message even find out of my charge. And you appreciate having much less room for misunderstanding. That's what I'm looking. And then the third point I want you to make, using a rapid treatment, a line, a color, a shading, people you tend to enjoy to what. So for instance, again, play the game with me. Sales mode, what's my message with this job? Can you tell me? Okay, so somebody say Allah. And then going to the order of directors, sales, I think please Allah. But give me a break. How much of anchor? Trouble. Scale. Hold on. Scales do not change relationships. If something has double its double as eggs, pound, dollars, cents, right? All the scale does is identify the nature of the data and the magnitude, but it doesn't change the relationship. Look, okay. There's somebody is in this audience. Identify who you are. There's always somebody in this room. Somebody here with an engineering background speaking is allowed the USOB. You put this on sunlight, log in their face. So let me tell you what's happening. No, this is not something on paper. And yes, this starts at 0. And can you appreciate we are now 2 minutes into a discussion that had absolutely nothing to do with what I'm buying ever no. See, it's not that sales have increased. My message that over the course of the year, there's been 2 brief periods of decline. Here, and here. This communication. How do I overcome that? I take responsibility for my point of view. I use my message title and a graphic feed. This case, yellow, because you into your eye what over. That's where I stop by saying it. Any questions on that for now? Okay, so with that in mind, let me address the third of these, the actual delivery skills. What I talked to you about is setting the tone, talking about the skills themselves. I'll demonstrate what I mean by working with visual aids. We'll finish off with any question. I'll be in the previous step was just setting up a facility. Incredibly important, gentlemen. And do you see how much visual space I've allocated to this universe while setting up facilities? Did I repeat it? You admitted to being nervous.
I need you to get into that room as far ahead of time as you can, 40 minutes, and set it up the way you want it to. See, I know there's a lot of technical experts and a lot about the equipment that have never delivered your presentation. And get it there and have it done the way you want it to be. We got away pretty lucky in this room. Because what I find in one conference room, the people that have denied the rules put very bright lights directly over the screen, and you can't cut them off, and then washes out the images on the screen. When I used to overhead projectors, I used to find that overhead projectors only get freezed when I came into the room. Okay, so I need you to get it to bed. Where you gonna prick your nose? Where you gonna put fragment? Where you gonna put your wash? But get comfortable. But do what?
Oh, the very station is up to you.
In terms of setting the tone, what your audience is looking for and listening for in you as a speaker are three parts: confidence, conviction, enthusiasm. Confidence. They want to feel like you know your material. Because if any question comes up, you will have an answer, including the confidence to say, I don't know. Well, you don't have an answer. I beg you, you don't have an answer. Don't make one up. It'll be very obvious to your audience, and it will undermine everything you're putting in that presentation. Put it this way: if you're not topping in your own presentation, you don't expect your audience to be loving it either. What's going to happen? They'll ask you thousands of nitpicky questions. The sole purpose is to point out, either know what the hell you put. Conviction. I need you to believe in what you're speaking about. If you were sitting there in the seat of a decision maker, you would act on your own recommendation. Be clear, if you don't believe in it, it's going to show through again. And why should you expect your audience to believe? And enthusiasm. I promise you, you will never ever bore your audience into accepting your recommendations. You tell me, okay, one hell of a lot of energy. I am going to feel it about right back home tonight. And I want you to do as many times as I've done this. I am giving you tonight every bit as much energy as I might have done yesterday as I will tomorrow, because I owe you no less. Or your audiences no less. It's those three things working together: confidence, conviction, and in terms of the skills that you have available with which to do that. Now, the words you use, the way you use your voice, and the way you use your body and your gesture. In terms of the words you use, I thank you. Speak to your audience the way you normally speak. Now, I'm very serious about guys. Many of us, we write our presentations out, and when we speak, we start to sound like a written memo. Right, one of the image that comes up will be would be if you were to order breakfast in the morning from the waiter, this is the way you would sit down. Good morning, sir. The purpose of my presence here this morning is to obtain breakfast. I will require the following three items: A, toast; B, eggs; B1, soft boiled. You start to talk at her. See, I'm very clear. One of the biggest concerns we have in front of an audience is the fear of making a mistake. I don't know. Does anybody have read Christian Virtue's work, The Indian Rule? In one of his books, he makes an observation that before the crap, whatever it was, so magnificent. He asks the question: when your feelings get hurt, maybe we study when your feelings get hurt, what is hurt? See, that isn't like getting a tooth full. You get a tooth full, pain. And yet, for many of us, we would rather have a tooth full than the embarrassment that comes from making a mistake from ground. Let me make you a promise. I promise you, you are going to make mistakes in front of your audience. See, you're a human being, so that by definition, you're not perfect to begin with. Let me be all right to make mistakes. I genuinely want you to know that your audience isn't sitting there with a scorecard counting the mistakes you're making. As a matter of fact, you want me to really hurt your feelings? You sure? The audience doesn't even care if it's you presenting today. You're in one of 100 other people. All they care is how those recommendations are going to get them out of a bad situation.
So I think you're all right. You do Windows talk around novels, people sticks and what.
In terms of the way you use your voice, yes. Expand or rate. This is Britton's workshop that you're conducting, and to be sure that you're comfortable in the rate at which you speak. Come here, make sure that you reach the people sitting all the way in the back. In terms of your visual, Steve, what do you do with your hands, your body, and your knees? It's up. If I could give you guidelines, here's what I would hear my son say. I want you to stand with your weight evenly distributed on both feet. This is to avoid where it's not to walk back and forth. Feet has to be apart for spacing your audience. You may want to imperceptibly be on your toes, a little bit of a bound, and bend your knees ever so slightly so you don't stop the blood from getting to your heart. Cup. Yep. Now, that was the easy fault, right? But question, what do you do with refill? Tell you what, you cannot put him behind your back. Very defensive. That could him gets higher. It's not too full. You cannot put him on your waist. Very yelling in the back. You cannot force your house. You cannot point. You cannot pick your nose. About the only advice I can give you is, I do like the idea of a weight more of them than not. But if you make home base, your arms about waist high, as I am in like now. So make a very good impression of your audience, and that's home base, but which trust yourself. Just move your arm to whatever your record is. With to lose your consciousness about your arm. Think about what you're saying, your own. Worry about it and reject. On the other hand, there is one skill I really, really, really need you with. One I do even call icon. This is a way a lot of fragmentation, a psychological shaky head will dimmen them than you are. So that at some stage or other, everyone eavesdropped that you have that personal one-on-one conversation. That skill you bro. See, your audience is always talking to you, if not with words, with body language. When they agree, you see goes, well, nod of the head, like he moved on. Uh-oh, they disagree, that there's some backup. Uh-oh, I know it's a crown, let me wrap it now. You won't know how your presentation went if you never looked at your audience. I'll ask you at the end of a presentation, how did they know you? I don't know. We see you never saw your audience. I have worked on that one skill. That is your problem. In terms of doing something with your body, your head, and your gestures, it is called, like you see here, called working with your boy. And I think, yes. I have absolutely no problems with the two questions in terms of you having those two first. No problem. As a member of your audience, what I get is you want to be sure you want to get anything. I do have a problem. If your result become more important than anything else because you haven't had 10 of yours, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. And so your focus with eye contact on your nose and that. When you need to refer to your notes, pick up your notes, look at that point. Put them down. Yeah. You have a spark your feet on one. I was talking about working with visual aids, and here what I was needing, and you see me do this. Instead of standing here where you're blocking part of and doing the base on your eye, when you show your visual, be quiet and go sleep. Turn your body at about as 90-degree angle so you don't lose the eye contact with your heart. And then with your hands, point on the screen at what variety as you refer to it. That gives you something very constructive to move your body around with your glasses. Also, from your audience, all of you, that's a big, where should I look at? Look at the word measure. Look at the vertical one. Look at the word facility. Take a look at this chart. You see the vertical scale, you see the horizontal scale. You see the dash line, met your competitor. Take a look at where you are. Look at the gap between the two. That gear, it gear so what? In your transition, show the next visual, back up to the work.
What do you appreciate? But I'll give you something very constructive to be here, buddy. Long. Okay, so with that in mind, let me at this stage follow up with handling questions. I sometimes get concerned about leading that for last. Because if we really honest, that's the source of your extension. It's the fear of question. It's not so much the fear of question, it's the fear of not having answers for the questions, right? Do you ever hear yourself say this to your audience? Ladies and gentlemen, please feel free to ask any questions at any kind. Doesn't hear you up there. If you say like bullshit, spoken that. If you're really clear, what you really need is please ask only those questions for which we have brilliant answers when we ask you to answer.
Very what that name of the
What is the single most often heard answer to in-question methods?
Most often heard is
I just said that the good question was the second most often heard answer. Yeah, there's actually that play. That's a good question. I'll get back to that. I'll get back to that.
I'll come back to that later. Just give me a few minutes, I'll touch that later. Would you please stop interrupting me with your dumb questions? I'll get to those when I'm damn good and ready.
Sam.
That's what you say. That's in fact what you imply. Anytime you say to your audience, I'll get to that later, it suggests that what you have to say is more important than what they need to understand to proceed. Shut up, I'll get to that when I'm there when I'm ready. It's a psychological shut up. And you're going to find 12,000 reasons for why it should be justified, and I will not allow one of those to breathe. The audience asks the question, answer the question. Give me the answer the question. Now, about the only latitude I will give you is if I hear you say, let me give you a short answer now, or longer answer will follow, and if that's okay with a person having your question. See, forget a presentation. Yes, sir.
There's always some guy that wants to go off on some tangent away from what the rest of you think the rest of the audience wants to say. What do you do with that person?
Answer the question. Keep it brief, break eye contact, move on, it's up to you. But don't put that person up. To that person doesn't take it out of bounds. Answer the question. Agree, break eye. Cool. The process behind a question looks like this. Someone asks a question. Rule number one. Shut up and listen to the question. See, your mind goes crazy. Somebody asks a question, your mind is like, do I have an answer? Don't I have an answer? Do I have? Goody, I've got an answer. Right. And you feel so good, you rush up with the answers before the question has been finished. Wait. Aside from that being good to courteous, very often in the process of asking a question, the individual finds his or her own answers. Sometimes someone else will handle it for you as a member of the audience. More often than not, the first comments are not reading the question, it's a setup of a real question I found wrong. So develop what one of my colleagues call the courage to be quiet. One of the chapters in my book reads, listen in the silence. Develop courage. Yeah, this, if it's a multiple part question, and you're working with a team do me a favor, write down all the parts to the question in case I don't answer all the parts. I want to be sure. We've only had big up there. After the question has been asked, rule number 2, pause. Think about your answer. Make the person feel the question was important enough
that you need to try to think about the answer. As against, you didn't get me. I got an answer. I got an answer. I got it. Oh. Think about your answer. That matters. In answering the question, answer only the question that's been asked. No more and no less. Avoid the attitude that suggests you didn't get me this time, you SOB. Not only do I have answers for that question, I got answers for question we have. You're tight for time, you're gonna run out of these, you're only up a fork that you make. Just answer a question. Also, in answering the question, assume everyone in your audience is equally interested in the answer. So let's assume that you have asked me a question. Now, I'm giving you an answer. You and I are pretty good eye contact, so we're going to have a damn good time for the next 20 minutes, right? But what's happening to everybody else in the audience? You got it? I cannot afford to let you psychologically escape. So I will pull the question from the individual and answer it with eye contact or everyone in your life. Now, let me give you a dirty trick. You could be able to not have already said. But you want to minimize getting a follow-up question from the same person, finish me out to pop like that. Because we'll get back to that person, we're going to get it. Although in your heart, answer the question. That's where your presentations are made. Stop thinking about presentation at an audience. Think of communicate with. That's number. Also, this is a key method. If I did not do a good job of answering the question, be diplomatic, be centered, again, jump in. If I did not answer all of the questions that were asked, jump in. Get that our first responsibility is not to me, it is to the members of the audience. As a result, what you may want to do very often in your rehearsal is anticipate all of the questions that may come up, including the 3 toughest questions you may get on the minute vessel via your audience. So that you can either pre-empt them or anticipate your answers before the day. Any question to my question? Please. I appreciate your question, but I generally do not have an answer. Can you help me? No? Did anyone in the loop answer the question? I promise you, I'll come up with the answer after the presentation, and I'll do the test of the about that. Over. You haven't called to your question, what is the I was doing that you know? I appreciate it, but Demi, I just simply do not understand the pressure in my rebriefing to be who I am. So, but it's happening. Yep, be careful. When you said rephrase, that's different than repeat. Rephrase means changing the way the question was asked. If I am going to change a word, I will ask permission. I appreciate the question. I can't quite answer it that way. Is it all right with you if I answer it this way? In terms of repeating, if that's two separate issues, the answer is you don't have to put the question. You need to read it to repeat the question if you're not sure everyone in the room in first. Otherwise, I would rather you pause, listen to the silence, think about your answer, and pull it off. I got it. So behind might be this set. No, I'm saying your point is well taken. And somebody says, I don't like that. That's not a question. Don't answer it as though it were a question. Acknowledge, I got that you don't like that. Let's talk about it. Get the anger out of your system. Stop making yourselves right and wrong. Just be there and handle on an even key. Stop that. What specifically don't you want? And report. Yep. Any other questions about questions? Okay, so you can see it hasn't been that simple, right? Therefore, let me give you 5 next steps. And I promise will totally transform the quality of your presentation. You may want to write these steps. Up to such a dope pistol backbone. Anyway, I will at this will transform the quality of your presentation. Sorry. Wow. You're taking your life in your hands if you think you can do all of this without some form of weakness. Rehearse. Resistance level 1, a path you by yourself, not sitting off the edge of your bed, not watching a football game, but getting up in front of a room that simulates the room, maybe having a tape recorder. Preparing your notes. You're very familiar, talking it out loud and listening to yourself. Rehearsal number 2 is equal to 3 or 4 colleagues, no more. Now, colleagues, I'm going to beg you. Tomorrow is the presentation. This is not the time to undermine my confidence. So please be very sensitive to what you're going to say. Very instructive. Let me know what you find and how to lace becomes like that. Be very objective, be very realistic. And last, if you have availability of video equipment, deliveries that you can see yourself in the wardrobe for.
At the key, Gabby, do quite a few video workshops. The first workshop will be 2.5 days for 80 of the colleagues. Literally, watch it yourself.
Number, deploying the situation. One sentence objective, in-depth analysis of audience, 30-second message, how much spent on one's media going to be. See, how you design your presentation, you put the storyline, story core, you design your limits, rehearse, deliver the presentation. In other words, the only goal you have, which is make it see. That is the only leisure it possesses. End of the presentation. Be sure you get pushed. You make sure that you defend your objective. Otherwise, get it in this kind of with your audience and what you're going to say. And get your approval, blah. Okay, I said I'd be finished on time. One of the biggest secrets I have, by the way, is to always ask for more time than I need to finish it. Your audience love it. You still have 10 minutes. I'll share the difference with you. Are there a few very hot questions? And do we surface them now? Good. What I find myself doing is I will get to the room early before anybody is there. I will write down and speak out loud the first 10 sentences to my presentation. So I hear what sound of my voice